best car, SUV, or truck, guess what? You're in luck. Frontier Motors is down the street. Got the best deals that can't be beat. Don't overpay, come in today. Doing business the old-fashioned way. Frontier, we've got the right price. Frontier, we'll treat you mighty nice. Frontier Motors, low overhead country.
Hello and welcome to the Frontier Motor Show. My name is Ivan Struckle, owner of Frontier Motors. And for the next half hour, we're going to be talking about cars and what's going on in the auto industry nationwide, and also what's going on in Pensacola, and a little bit of what's going on at Frontier Motors. By the way, we're bringing this from a new studio at Long Hollow Creatives right off of Palafox Street in beautiful downtown Pensacola. So welcome to the show. And this is not a normal, typical car show. And if you've been ever watching Blab TV, there are 3 or 4 different types of car shows. Most of them are dealership shows, new car shows, where they talk about particular cars that they have and specials that they have. And Frontier Motors does it a little bit different. We are the go-to dealer, not so much to buy a car, but to get advice when you are in the car market. And that might not be today. So for those of you that say, well, I'm not buying a car right now, so why should I watch Frontier Motor Show? It's because you might actually learn something when you are in the market, or maybe a friend or relative, maybe someone you work with will ask you, where should I go to buy a late model or nice, or even a nice older used vehicle? And hopefully you will at least recommend Frontier Motors based on some of the things that I'm talking about in the next 28 minutes. A little bit, when we first start the show, we always talk a little bit about what's going on nationwide. And of course, with the virus situation, there was a big disaster over the last 2 months as far as new cars is concerned, because when they closed the new car factories, it really affected, obviously, the sales of new cars. For the first couple of weeks, the sales were actually still pretty good, even though there weren't a lot of people coming out of the house, because there was a lot of inventory. And what's happened lately is those cars have trickled off the dealers' lots, and now they are hurting because even though they have just announced that the new car factories are going to open again, it takes approximately 6 to 8 weeks to produce and ship a vehicle to the lot. So there's going to be a lag. And what's happening right now is there are a lot of used cars being purchased because the new cars have been picked through. I'm not saying new cars dealerships don't have inventory, but a lot of the nice ones, the best colors, the best equipment have already been picked through. And what's left is some of the plain Jane type of vehicles that don't sell that good. And more vehicles are coming, which is really good. And what I'm happy to announce that this last month, in the month of May, we delivered just about 1 car short of 200 cars. We delivered 199 cars, which is really good. That's about what our average is. And when you think of that, the virus is still around, that's pretty good, which means that things are, at least in the car business, at our car dealership, things are back to normal. People, I watch them come in. It doesn't seem like they're afraid to come out of the house. And the social distancing, I know that they talk about you have to practice social distancing. It's interesting how I don't see that happening a lot, at least at our dealership, where people are coming in. They're still doing the old-fashioned, they shake the hands. Every once in a while you get the elbow, but things seem to be back to normal, which I'm happy to announce. Nationwide, used cars are rocking and rolling. Last year in 2019, the results are actually in. It takes them a couple of months to compile the results. They sold 40.4 million used cars. That is a new record. They've been keeping track for about 7 years now on the total nationwide sales. New cars were actually good. They weren't a record by any means. The record was, I believe, in 2016, where they sold about 18 million cars. They sold 17.2 million new cars last year. And one of the reasons they said that new car sales went down a little bit is because the average price of a new car is almost $36,000. And they said that, this is according to J.D. Power, it says that the average price is a major factor in the rise of used vehicle sales. In its most recent used vehicle report, Edmunds found the average price difference between a new vehicle and an equivalent 3-year-old vehicle to be $14,950, basically $15,000 price difference. That's quite a bit for a car that's 3 years old. And we're talking equipment, color to color, everything being the same, and of course an excellent primo condition. You'd save about $15,000 on a 3-year-old car. What we specialize in at Frontier Motors, by the way, is the alternative to new. What I mean by that is we have a lot of 2020 model cars, a lot of 2019 and 18 model cars that have very low miles, and I'm talking as low as 10 to 15 miles. Not 15,000 miles, I'm saying 10 and 15 miles. We bought a bunch of Hondas last month that were Odysseys and Honda Pilots and Ridgelines that basically were brand new, even though we are not a franchise dealer. So technically I have to sell these new cars as used. We mark the used car box. We title the vehicle to make sure that the warranty is ticking. That gives me the ability to sell these cars to the general public without being a Honda dealer. And of course, the big advantage about not being a Honda dealer is I don't have the overhead and I don't have the factory rules to go after. In other words, the building that has to be built, the facility, the service facility, all the things that go along with being a franchise dealer are very, very expensive. That's one of the reasons that when we moved down here, my wife and I, Jennifer, started Frontier Motors 23 years ago. We actually came from running a new car dealership, a big dealership out of the Milwaukee area. And when we moved down here, it's when we don't want to be told what to do by the franchise. So we decided to open a used car dealer. It was the best thing we ever did. We started with only about 25 cars. This was 1994, and now we are in stock. We're stocking between 300 to 400 cars at a time, depending on how many cars we sell and how many we replace. So we've grown to be the largest independent dealer within Escambia and Santa Rosa County. And the reason I mention that fact that we're the largest, not only by sales but also by the amount of cars that we have, is because if you come to our dealership, there's a reason we sell that many cars. Obviously, the pricing has to be in line with what the economy and what everybody else is doing. But what we really pride ourselves in, that it's not just the pricing that's important, it's the vehicle that we put on the lot. So when you come in, you see a vehicle that's used, but it doesn't smell like a used car. It doesn't look like a used car. You walk around it, there's no dings, no dents, no scratches. The tires are like brand new. You open the door, it looks like a brand new car, but yet it has depreciated like a used car. And Consumers Reports actually last year came out in the April's edition for the first time ever. I've been talking about depreciation for 23 years, but for the first time I've ever seen them put it in writing where they've done a survey, and they said in 1 year, the average new car depreciates 27%, which on a $34,000 car equates to $9,200 depreciation in the first year alone. So just imagine if you're the poor person that bought a brand new car and for whatever reason you said, I don't want this car anymore. Maybe the payments are too high, maybe the insurance is too high, maybe you've outgrown the car, maybe you just made a mistake, or you want to do the Dave Ramsey thing and get out of debt, and yet say, I want to sell that car that I bought last year. Your average loss in 1 year is $9,200. Why would anybody buy a brand new car? I can't figure it out. In 2 years, it's $12,500. And as we talked about, in 3 years, this Consumer Reports matches what J.D. Power says, $15,500 loss on a 3-year-old car. So even if I make money on the car, let's say I mark the car up, let's just say $2,000 on the average, you're still going to save about $13,500 on a 3-year-old car. And if that's a 3-year-old car, let's say that's a Hyundai, for example, or a Kia, or a Mitsubishi, they come with a 5-year warranty. So if the car is 3 years old, you still have 2 years of factory warranty left. If it's a Highline product, they come with a 4-year warranty, like a Lexus, BMW, Jaguar, Infiniti. So if it's a 3-year-old car, you still have a year's warranty left. Now, the ones that don't have the long warranty, which always makes my head spin, I can't figure it out, is Honda and Toyota. Honda and Toyota always tell you, well, they're the best cars ever. By the way, Toyota still is way on top for reliability. Honda's not anymore, even though we sell a lot of Hondas. And Honda's dealer, the local Honda dealer, does a really good job because they're still riding on the coattails. The Honda is such an exceptional vehicle. And Consumer Reports says that they're good, but they're not the best anymore. Now, Toyota's still up there with Lexus. But the other ones that are up there that you wouldn't even know about would be cars like Mazda. Mazda is one of the best cars out there. People don't know that. Subaru is one of the best cars out there. People know that Subaru is always meant for safety, but years ago they weren't the most reliable car. Now they are. So it just goes on and on that the car business does change, and cars that sometimes were the best aren't always the best anymore. And why does a Honda and a Toyota have a 3-year warranty? So if you buy a 3-year-old Honda Toyota, your factory bumper-to-bumper warranty is over with. They do give you a 5-year, 60,000 drivetrain. And by the way, at Frontier Motors, any vehicle that you purchase comes with a 10-year, 100,000-mile engine and transmission and drive axle warranty. Now, what that means to you is if the vehicle is 3 years old, you get a total of 10 years. So it means you got 7 years to go and the odometer reading up to 100,000 miles. That's included with the price of any car. And one of the reasons that we got this warranty is because if you buy a brand new Hyundai, for example, or a brand new Kia, they come with a 10-year, 100,000 mile drivetrain warranty automatically. That is not transferable to the next owner. So if I bought a 1-year-old Hyundai, for example, you wouldn't get that 1010. That's not a good selling. I mean, that hurt us. Because if you go to Hyundai dealer, you do get that. So what we decided, we have an insurance company that insures all of our cars for one fee. I pay one fee every car that we have, other than modified vehicles, turbocharged hot rods, will get a 10-year, 100,000 mile total drivetrain warranty. A little bit of a feel good when you buy a car. If the motor blows up at 90,000 miles, you're going to get a new motor in that car. The transmission goes at 95,000 miles. As long as it's less than 10 years old total, you will still have warranty on that car at Frontier Motors, which a lot of dealerships don't give you. So we talk about a little bit about the warranties on the vehicle, what's going on in the industry as far as sales. Used cars are hot right now, and they will continue to be really, really hot over the next 2 months while new cars are trying to gain some traction as far as getting inventory back up. And that's what's happening in the nationwide world of things. Here in Pensacola, we've got about 90 used car dealerships. As I mentioned before, we're the largest used car dealership in Pensacola. For about the last 15 and 16 years, we've been number one. We sell approximately 200 to 250 total cars a month on the average. And that means we've got to buy 200 and 250 cars a month. So I'm getting the word out to everybody out there that we are a car dealership that will appraise your car and give you a figure on your car if you want to sell it in 15 minutes. The only ones I can't do this with, I always put a little asterisk on there, are vehicles that are really, really old, that might have 140,000 miles on it, that it's going to take longer for us to have a professional mechanic inspect the vehicle. But if it's a normal car, let's say it's got 70 or 80,000 miles or less, we drive around the block, we do a quick appraisal, we scan the ID number, we do a quick assessment if it needs anything, any reconditioning, and we give you a price in writing. And we buy so many vehicles, especially now with the virus. A lot of people don't want customers coming over to their house. They don't want people, driving the car. They don't want people to say, I want to go get the car inspected and take it for a day and take it to my mechanic. They don't want people to say, well, I've got a trade-in, or they want to work you down on the price, or they need help with financing. It's a pain in the butt to sell your car yourself. Why do people want to sell their car themselves? Because they feel they're going to get more money than what the dealer's willing to give them. What if you found a dealer like Frontier Motors that would be a compromise? They're not going to give you retail of what it would sell for, but they're going to give you more than wholesale. And sometimes the gap can be as much as $5,000. And that's why people years ago got so frustrated they would go to a car dealership. Hey, how much would you give me for my car? The car dealership gives you $10,000 for a car that's going to retail for $15,000. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean that car dealership has to make $5,000 on your car? That's a little extreme. At Frontier Motors, we have done this for so many years that people will come to us when they're ready to sell a car. And let's say that I can't talk you out of buying a new one. There are some people like that out there. Obviously, there's 17 million people last year that I didn't talk them out of buying a new car. They bought new. So what do they do with the trade-in? Well, they're at the mercy of the new car dealership. Why not come to Frontier Motors and let us give you a second opinion, or let's put it this way, a first opinion, before you go to the car dealer, that you've got the appraisal in your back pocket and you're armed. So let's say that I give you an appraisal of $20,000 for your car. I will write you a check for $20,000 for your car. So you go to the new car dealership, you make your best deal on the car. Let's say they knock off a couple of $1,000. Let's say they have a $2,000 rebate. They give you the fees, the dock fee, and all the taxes and everything, and you know how much that new car is going to cost you. And then you tell them, hey, by the way, I do have a buyer for my car, but in case I decide not to sell it to them, Frontier Motors is the buyer, how much will you give me for my car? And I'm thinking that if you're spending $36,000 on a new car at a new car dealership, that they should give you more than what I'm giving you at Frontier Motors if you're not doing business with me. So if I'm giving you $20,000, I would think that they should give you at least $21,000. Because you're spending money. You're taking a car off their shelf and you're giving them an opportunity to make more money by giving them your used car. And I always shake my head when somebody says, the $20,000 appraisal, I haven't went over there, and then most they would give me $17,000. There's a little bit of a tax advantage if you trade, so they kind of use that, but you can really get the best. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. There's a tax advantage if you trade it in. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because new car dealers will talk you into trading the car in because you pay less taxes. So even though they're giving you less money for that car, they justify it by saying, well, I'm going to give you $1,500 less, but you're going to save $1,500 in taxes. You can actually have the best of both worlds. You can get the higher appraisal from me at Frontier Motors, trade in your car at the dealership you're going to go to, and I'll buy it right from the dealership. That way you get the tax advantage and the higher appraisal. So if I appraise your car for $20,000, and to make this simple for you folks that don't know the advantage of trading, is let's say you're buying a $20,000 new car. There are still some new cars out there you can buy for $20,000. Let's say a Chevy Cruze, a little car, Chevy Spark is about $16,000. Some of the cheapo stick shift pickup trucks even, you could buy for $20,000. And let's say you have a $20,000 car. Well, if you're trading even up, how much taxes are there? It's zero. Now, if you sold the car to someone, you'd have to pay about $1,500 in taxes, give or take a little bit. So the new car dealer will reappraise the car for lower and tell you your out the door figure's the same. Well, get the best of both worlds. Get that higher appraisal and still save the tax money. I do have that happen a lot. Now, a lot of times what happens, I never get the trade-in. I appraised it for 20, they appraised it for 17. Then they reappraise it for the 20. So I'm thinking like, where's my car? I'm going to get that in the next couple of days, and they never sell it to me. The used car manager sometimes will say, well, if Frontier Motors thinks it's worth that, it must be worth that. And they reappraise it and put more money in. And the reason they do that sometimes is because the way they make money is not so much on the new cars. You see the advertisement. I saw the advertisement on a leftover pickup truck the other day where they're discounting that vehicle $12,000 if you qualified for all of the incentives, which, by the way, you will never do. I had a friend of mine go to the local dealer. I'm not going to mention which brand it was, but out of all of they had it advertised at $15,000 off. He didn't qualify for half of the incentives. So his discount ended up being about $10,000 instead of $15,000 because they threw it, they got all these like first-time buyer programs. They got college graduate. They got farmers program if you're a farmer, if you're ex-military, if you're a loyalty customer. In other words, if you have the same brand, you get extra money. Well, you can't qualify for all those things. So technically a little bit of false advertising, but they don't make, when they advertise a car like that, even if you buy it, they don't make a lot of money on that car. So he's asked, well, why do they sell new cars? Well, they sell new cars because they take a trade-in. They sell new cars because they make money on the financing when you finance through the manufacturer. They get a kickback on that. They sell you aftermarket products like rust proofing, scotch guarding, fabric treatment, leather treatment, security systems, mud flaps. That list goes on and on and on. That's how they make money. And they try to take your trade-in as cheap as possible. Now, how do you prevent that? Other than by looking in a book? Books, by the way, don't buy cars. I've got books. I got a black book here that's supposed to be an auction guide book. I got an NADA book. Everybody's heard of the Edmunds and the Kelley Blue Book. I've never seen a book buy a car. I've seen a book give you figures on a car, but these books can be way off. Most of the time, the books are high. Most of the time. So once in a while, they're really low. I always use the example of a Jeep Wrangler. If you book out a 10-year-old Wrangler, they have an awful book value. They might come to $6,000 is what the retail book on says. That vehicle on the open market can bring as much as $10,000, so you might as well throw the book away. And on Highline cars, the books are normally way high. I've got a lot of cars out there that I can sell for $3,000 to $4,000 under book value. So don't use the book. Use Frontier Motors for real value. 15 minutes, and I can give you a written appraisal where I will buy your car for. And people will say, well, will you buy any car out there? I said, no, I won't buy any car out there. I would say 90% of the cars out there. What won't I buy? Well, I won't buy a car that's been in a major wreck. I won't buy a car that has a bad title. In other words, if it's a salvage vehicle, if it's a lemon law buyback, if it's an odometer problem, we don't buy cars like that. We normally don't buy cars that are over 10 years old with 200,000 miles on it, even though I have bought 10-year-old cars with 130,000 miles on it, especially if it's a car like a Toyota. That there is an article in the Consumer's Reports that says most vehicles prone to hit 200,000 miles. And a lot of them are, for example, Toyota Sequoia, a 4Runner, a Ridgeline, Honda Ridgeline, a Tacoma, a Tundra, an Avalon, Honda Odyssey. Even some of the domestics like the Navigator, Suburban, and the Expedition and the Yukon are on there to hit 200,000 miles. So I do buy older cars with high miles on, as long as they're in really good condition. I won't buy anything that's ratty. We call them a rat in the car business. A car that's been smoked in really bad, that you can't get the smell out. A car that just looks nasty. We are not in the reconditioning business. I like buying really clean cars from people that can prove that they've maintained the car perfectly. And that's why I like buying from private individuals. Now, the only bad thing about buying from private individuals that I will caution you about if you go on Craigslist or Facebook and buy a vehicle from private individual is that once you pay them, you are done. Well, what happens when you buy a bad car at Frontier Motors, if that were ever to happen? Hopefully it never will. Well, guess what? You're going to be sitting in front of us a couple days later and say, hey, what did you sell me here? You got someone to talk to. And reputation is key. So if we have a vehicle that has a problem, for example, you buy a car one day, let's say tomorrow morning the check engine light comes on. If you buy that from a private individual, you're pretty much done. You're pretty much out of luck. Well, with a car dealer, if you deal with a reputable dealer, they would take care of that for you, especially if it's the next day or the day after. That means it probably was a pre-existing condition. I'm not talking about 30 days or 60 days later, unless it's under factory warranty, of course. So these are the things I'm talking about that to be careful of. Let me tell you also, I've got a friend that does a great job advertising for Frontier Motors, and that is Dave Ramsey. Most people know who Dave Ramsey is. And Dave Ramsey, I think it's been about 10 years, came to us and said, I'm going to do a commercial for you guys. They do a lot of research. They pick one large independent dealer in a metro area. In Pensacola, they came to Frontier Motors. I didn't call them up and ask them to do advertising for us, which is kind of a feather in our cap. They check with the Better Business Bureau, they check with Google Reviews, they check with a lot of people to make sure that if they're going to endorse someone, they're endorsing a stand-up dealer. And they will not endorse a new car dealership because he's all about saving that money that I was talking about, which is called depreciation. Let me tell you what he has to say.
Hey, Dave Ramsey here. When you need a quality pre-owned vehicle, I'm happy to be recommending a dealer that still does it the old-fashioned way, where relationship is formed from face-to-face contact, where a handshake still means something. For 22 years, my friends at Frontier Motors have been helping the Pensacola community with their transportation needs, but they do so much more. They are the go-to dealer for free advice, free appraisals, free Carfax reports, and free total loss and diminished value reports. Any car buying questions, see Frontier Motors. 70% of their customers are repeat or referrals. It's unheard of in the used car industry. I'm talking no pushy salesman, no pressure selling, always an out-the-door price in writing, and no mausoleum, high overhead showroom. Just 400 of the nicest used cars you'll ever see. Check out Frontier Motors, and don't forget to tell them Dave Ramsey sent you.
Yeah, Dave does a really good job in 60 seconds saying what it takes me hours and hours to say. So he pretty much told you what we do at Frontier Motors. And I think, again, what I started with the show is that we're the dealership that gives you free advice. And what I mean by that is that we don't make you feel obligated that you've got to buy from us if you come in. And what do I mean by free advice? Well, obviously, number one would be pricing. If you find a car somewhere else, a private individual, maybe somebody at work, maybe it's a used car dealership, or maybe it's a brand new car dealer, why not stop in at Frontier Motors and get some free advice of which car is a good car, a bad car? What is our experience being in business at Frontier Motors for 23 years, me being in business in the used car industry since I was 15 years old, as far as which car is going to make it for a long time and which cars have a lot of issues. We can help you with that. And because we're an independent dealer, we don't really care which make and model you buy. And that's that one nice thing, that when you stop in and you say, hey, I want a pickup truck, and I say, well, hey, I got a Dodge here. I don't want a Dodge. I don't care if you don't want a Dodge, or now they call them Rams. I want a Ford. Well, I've got Fords too. I've got people come in that say, hey, I've got a Ford truck. I wouldn't buy a Ford truck. I want a GM truck. Well, I've got GM truck. So we don't have to sell you on a product. And that doesn't happen when you go to a new car dealership, because that's what they are trained to do. If you go to a GM store, they're going to tell you why the GM is the best truck in the world. And you go to a Ford store, they're going to tell you now the Ram, they got all their propaganda why the Ram truck is the best truck to buy. Or maybe you go to Nissan, the Titan or the Tundra, if you're looking at full size. Those are the big five. We have them all at Frontier Motors. So it makes it so easy that our salespeople don't sell vehicles. Our salespeople technically are order takers. They show you the vehicles. They don't put a sales job on you. They let you test drive it. Then they come into one of the managers. We've got 4 managers that will give you an out-the-door price in writing. And that's what we advertise. How much easier can it get? There doesn't have to be this back and forth with a salesman and manager, nickel and diming you over $100 or so. So what we do, I feel it's our job as a dealer to tell you how much our product is going to cost. And we go one step further where we give you that price in writing, not on the back of a business card, but with an out-the-door price. Now, what does that mean? That means everything is included, including the tag. Did you know that brand new license plate and title, if you buy a brand new car, can be as much as $500? And a lot of times they'll give you an out-the-door price, which includes the taxes. But then 30 days later, they do the tag work for you. Then they give you a call and say, hey, your tag's in, come on down. And you got to pay $500 for your license plate. And you blow a gasket. You told me that was an out-the-door figure. Our out-the-door figures include everything, including license plate, the title fee, the dock fee, the tax and the dock fee. If there's any other miscellaneous things that you are going to be purchasing, if you want to purchase an extended warranty, the price will be included. That's the only thing that we sell after the fact is if you want to buy a wraparound new car policy to extend the warranty. That's the only thing that we have. We don't sell rust proofing. We don't sell Scotch guarding. We don't sell security systems. I don't really believe in that. And there are car dealerships where you go to a brand new car dealership, they have a little addendum on their car. They force you to buy that garbage. I went to Car City a couple of months ago with my bicycle on a Sunday when everybody was closed. And I was shocked at the addendum stickers where they do all that stuff to the car and they charge $2,000 more. So basically you're forced to do it because to buy it because it's already there. Not really fair. Only got a couple of minutes left. I forgot to mention we opened this. We actually are on Facebook Live. And I should have said that earlier in case you had some questions. But we also are going to recording this and you're going to be seeing this on Blab for about 15 days. And you're going to see this show also on YouTube. So if you have somebody that's in the market, just tell them to go to YouTube, type in Frontier Motors, and my ugly mug will come up and talk about a little bit what we have to offer at Frontier Motors. Over 300 vehicles in inventory. We're down a little bit. I mentioned before that we sold 200 cars last month, or actually 199, and the auctions were closed, which means I'm scrambling to buy cars. You will be surprised on what we'll pay for a car. It just means we make less money. We're going to give you very good money for your car, and we're not going to market that up that much when somebody comes in to buy to make sure that they still get a good deal. It's got to be a good deal for everybody where you feel you're getting a very good price for your car. I feel I can still make a little bit of money. And most importantly, that it's a good deal for our customers that come in. Check out FrontierMotorsInc.com. We have 31 or more detailed photographs of every car, a very good description. All of our vehicles will have a 100,000 mile warranty on the engine and transmission. And you can also click on Best Price, and we'll get back to you within a couple minutes. Thanks for listening. I've got to run now. Have a great day. I'll be okay.
Motors is down the street. Got the best deals that can't be beat. Don't overpay. Come in today. Doing business the old-fashioned way. Frontier. We've got the right price. Frontier. We'll treat you mighty nice. Frontier Motors. Low overhead country.